Hi, Steve. So we're back for
Hey,
another week.
Sarah.
Back
Hmm.
for another week of unedited conversation, and very much centered around this retail revolution that we've been talking
Yeah.
about and how we can help and inform small creative businesses and the industry as a whole, right? Because the industry as a whole is struggling right now. Number of factors,
Yeah.
obviously, the economy and new tech advancements and all kinds of things. But we had on our list that this week we were going to talk about how indie retail specifically is at risk and what we think
Hmm.
the solutions and the next steps forward are. So, should we just jump
Yeah.
right in?
Let's do it.
Let's do
So,
it.
yeah, well, you go first. I mean, what do you, I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot to unpack here. So,
Oh, yeah.
where would you see the beginning to be? What are the kind of what's the low-hanging fruit of what this looks like?
Well, let me start about what I know because I know that you're going to come to AI later and you're really more well versed in the topic of AI. So I'm going to
Yeah.
let you take that one a bit later. For me, I want to talk about marketplaces because I have been working with an organization in the UK called Anti Copying in Design, ACID UK.
Hmm.
And what we have been looking at is the blatant copyright and trademark violations
Yeah.
that happen across places like Timu and Alibaba and all of these kind of websites. And while that may seem like it only hits, well, I say only, like only hits designers and manufacturers and creators, it obviously has an impact on retail. I mean, I see myself on Facebook, people sharing their craft hauls from places like Timu, and it makes my heart sink because I know that
Hmm.
not only is there a designer, a brand, a manufacturer on the end of this that's losing out, there's also a small independent retailer losing out because realistically, what we want is for these people to go and do their craft hauls in their local craft shop or their local creative
Right.
art supply shop, right? So for
Hmm.
me, this is one of the biggest impacts on indie retail that we've seen, and this does go across not just art and craft but things like gift cards and gift wrap
Yeah.
and greeting cards.
Right.
Just so many independent makers are being targeted. It's really, really difficult. um so yeah, let's start with unpacking that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really complex issue, and I think it's a serious one. I agree with
Mm,
you. I think that if you play it out and you look at where this could be in 5 or 10 or 20 years, it's not pretty, and it's not just our industry. It's hitting fashion in a big way. You know, fast fashion has really done two things for fashion. I think that somewhat applies to our business as well. One is, like you said, it takes away from the truly creative process and just dumbs it all down. You
hmm.
know, here it is quick, here it is cheap, and we'll just keep pumping more and more at it. It makes it disposable
Yeah.
as opposed to something that's almost irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is the environmental side, which is a big deal for fashion. And I think to me, you could break it into like three groups. One is that it's easy for people to do. It's frictionless. In other
Hmm.
words, the platform's main core appeal is I click, I get, it's free, it's easy. I don't need to think about it. It
Mm,
happens. And they feed me what I think I need to know because they have the algorithms to do it. So it
yeah.
feels actually personalized. And then the second one is that when products are cheap enough, they become disposable. You know,
Yeah.
we are becoming a disposable society. And there's a really great, I think it's on Netflix, there's a really great documentary or series, I think it is. It's called Buy Now. And
Mm,
it's all about this. It's all about the idea that overconsumption really does hurt everything from the planet to the market that the people who started that business, whatever that
yeah.
was. And then the last component of it is how difficult it is for the independent retailer to make money, to survive. Forget about what's going on. It's just a tough business. Retail's a tough business in general, but family owned, small business, maybe a few stores, even as big as that, it doesn't matter because they're constantly up against a million things that are pulling and tugging at their time, their margins,
Mm,
and their attention when it should be devoted to the customer. So I think you've got convenience of shopping, you've got the impact on the planet, the industry, and human beings,
Mm.
and then you've got the difficulty to provide a more attractive and viable option.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, that's kind of where we sit. And if I had the answer, I'd be rich because we wouldn't be sitting here. But I think the answer is a lot of little things. There's a lot of
I
things that
agree.
need to be different.
Yeah. And I think some of those things, I mean, like you said, it devalues the goods almost, because I mean, like
Hmm.
Timu's slogan, for instance, is shop like a billionaire. But then how billionaire do you feel when you're multiple, just say you buy like a t-shirt that should be like an actual licensed t-shirt that should be like 50, $60, and you buy
Hmm.
a cheap copy from Temu or one of these marketplaces. Do you feel like a billionaire when it turns up in cheap tatty packaging and the printing's bad quality and everyone can tell it's a knockoff? I don't think you'd feel very billionaire-y. I think you would feel
Hmm.
cheap. And I think
Yeah.
I don't think people are, I think what we're looking for is the dopamine hit of, oh my gosh, this should be $60 and it's only $10. So you get that instant
Hmm.
dopamine hit. But I think it's instantly smacked out of you when you see how cheap and horrible it is. And you don't get
Yeah.
the like warm fuzzies from getting the real thing. So I
Right.
think that there's
Right.
those things to consider. And I think that, as you said, there are multiple little things that we need to look at here. And I think one of them is making people stop and think, and
Hmm.
educating that consumer on not only the cost to the supplier, the retailer, the environment, but the cost to them and how they're desensitizing themselves to the real dopamine hit of getting the
Right.
thing that they really long for. Um, and I think that that's definitely one area that we need to look at is how do we make people stop, because you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? We're not going to get
Right.
Timu to turn around and go, do you know what? You're right. We're going to stop making millions of dollars because we don't want to upset anyone. They're not going to do that. So what we need to do is make people stop and think and almost like get out of that bye 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 like hype
Hmm.
and slow
Hmm.
down and think, is this really what I want? Or am I swept up in some kind of gamified experience? And I need to stop and think about the real cost. Don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want now,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Right. Hmm.
So that would, for me, would be step one. Is I think we need more. We need to think as small companies. We need to think about this more of like, how do we put this into our marketing pieces, our consumer pieces? Because there's no point lecturing people and saying don't buy from this. So you just have to make yours look more inviting than this
Yeah.
cheap
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. I think you do. You have to have a better answer to the big question everybody has in their mind, which is what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Um, for example, using your example of a T-shirt with a ripped off licensing on it.
Mm.
The person who's buying that is not necessarily buying the T-shirt. It's FOMO.
Yeah.
I'm missing out because I'm not wearing. I'm missing out because I don't own, and I'm not going to the mall and this or that or the other thing. And so, it's an emotion. It's an endorphin. It's whatever you want to call it. It's just satisfying something that hit them right then and now.
Mm.
Our business, I think, has a unique advantage to it because I really do believe, whether they know it or not, the consumer who wants to buy art and craft materials or sewing or knitting or quilting, whatever, isn't buying, it's not FOMO. There's a certain degree of that, but that's not really at the heart of it. The heart of it is an outcome.
Yeah.
They want an outcome. I want to be creative.
Mm.
I want to make a gift. I want to have something that I can put on my wall. I
Hmm.
want to just, feed this creativity in me, this latent artist that exists in all of us. And I can do it because look, it popped up on my feed in Amazon, and it's only $5 for this set of 80 watercolors. We all know that it's
Yeah.
crap, but at the end of the day, they made it so easy to say yes to. But really, what that person is trying to say yes to is an outcome, and
Yeah.
that $80, that $10 80 color set of paint is going to produce a really crummy outcome.
Yeah.
So to me, the opportunity is how do we focus on the outcome and not the transaction?
Hmm.
How do we differentiate by that outcome? In other words, through
Yeah.
education, through, don't tell them they're wrong to buy from so and so.
Yeah.
Say, if you want to do this, here's how you do it, and we'll help
Mm.
you. And it's
Yeah.
free. All you have to do is buy the stuff.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's the answer. It's a very long road to get there, and it's a lot of work. But as an industry, doing it together makes it easier.
Yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? We have to pull together. And what you said about the outcome really resonates because I've actually seen, so I'm in a junk journaling group on Facebook, and I've seen people, they share their junk journaling spreads, like their double page spreads, much
Hmm.
like scrapbookers used to do, a few years ago. And they will say, like, oh, this looks really good, blah, blah, blah. And then I see other people who go, oh, here's my haul from Temu, and then my watercolors don't go over the stickers like yours do, and I can't write on those
Yeah.
papers like you do because they've bought the cheap ones. And I
Hmm.
see that I can almost see, like, they get all the stuff because we're all excited when we start something new, right? So they see it, they want to do it, they want to get all the things straight away, so they order this haul from Temu, and then when they start making, it's not where they want it to be. And it almost reminds me, I had a conversation a few years ago about kids' crafts, and people were saying about a lot of children are like discouraged from creating because they're given things like toilet roll tubes and
Yeah.
pipe cleaners, right? So the child makes something and it looks terrible, and then they don't want to make anything anymore. Whereas if you give
Yeah.
children really good art supplies and they make something they're proud of, they want to keep making. And I think it's the same concept, it hits us as adults too, is like if we get our haul from Temu and we look at it and we go, oh, that's sad. What we don't want people to do is then get discouraged from making. We want them to realize that they are not the issue. Their creation is not the issue. Their urge to create is not the issue. They just got their supplies from the wrong place. The core
Hmm.
ingredients are not
Hmm.
there, you know,
Yeah.
like making a cake with bad eggs. It's not going to come out well,
Right.
you need you need the right stuff to start with. And I think
Yeah,
we need
exactly.
to, as you said, like if we pull together as an industry, as a community, to teach people that actually it's just about putting the right eggs in and you'll get a great cake, then I
Yeah.
think, it will change the game for all of us.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think a big component of that is on everybody's guilty of this, which is getting caught up in the competitive price game.
Yeah.
In other words, somebody says, I can buy it cheaper, blah, blah, blah. Somebody says, I have 1,000 stores, or I have, a website and I can reach the world on it. And all of a sudden, you get dollar signs in your eyes and all these ideas of I'm going to really grow my business
Mm.
as a supplier. So I'm going to go put it on those marketplaces, or I'm going to put it in those big stores.
Mm.
And as a retailer, you're like, oh my God, I can't afford to lose another sale, so I'm going to lower my prices.
Yeah.
And both of them are death spirals. Both of them are just a race to the bottom because they have all these negative things that come with them. And
Yeah.
so the trick is, as an industry, how do we recalibrate and think about what really the end user wants? And that starts with the data. I know for a fact I've found the research and found some statistics that say that, for example, 61% of people surveyed would rather shop in their local store
Yeah.
because it has a better selection. And
Hmm.
oftentimes they're going to have it in stock when the other guy isn't. And they want to support the community. And a local store gives back more to the community. There's things like that. But at the same time, I think there's data that shows that what people want is to be able to do something
Yeah.
different, to put their hands on something and have something to show for it, as opposed to just buy, do, and things like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of really great trends in the world that are working in our favor.
Yeah.
What we have to do as an industry is figure out how do we capture that.
Yeah, I think as an industry, we've become a bit fragmented and a bit, I think because of the way the economy's gone, it makes it a little bit of an every man for himself situation. And
Hmm.
so the industry is fragmented, I think, quite a bit in terms of everyone's either looking at everyone else or just in-house and not looking at opportunity and where it stands. And I think if
Right.
we can actually pull together and come together for this, because funnily enough, working with this organization in the UK, Timu have actually approached me to say, you could put your brands on our platform and we can guarantee you X
Hmm.
many millions of people will see them and blah, blah, blah. And, they make it sound really tempting. There's salespeople trying to sell you stuff as a brand. But for me, it goes back to you don't sell out what you want most for what you want now. Does it sound tempting to get all these eyes on? Yes. But are they going to be authentic, repeating customers that are my community? No. Because realistically, what's going
Right.
to happen is they do this like, the pricing that changes with demand and all of that. So what's going to happen is I'm going to make no money at all,
Right.
devalue my brand. So what it's actually doing is just giving me this false sense of like fame for like 10 minutes of like I'm everywhere and everyone knows who I am. But actually I'm going to devalue my brand, earn no money, and destroy another part of the industry. I'm not on board for that. And I think we need to stop and
Yeah.
think that if someone is blowing smoke and telling you that they can deliver these millions of whatever it is, let's stop and think about why they're willing to do this, what they get out of it. What do you get out of it? Because we've all been made
Hmm.
promises by big companies or big people who have then let us down, right? We've seen it over and over again. Even if you haven't personally been affected, we've seen it happen. So don't be, bowled over by these big names with big promises and big ideas, because it's not tangible, it's not real. Build a
Right.
solid foundation and think about who you're working with and how those partnerships work. I think small
Hmm.
partnerships are so powerful because you are one on one with someone. You're not going through these layers of approval and getting lost in this like mire of, you know, information where things can go wrong. You are one
Right.
on one handshake, and I think I would like to think we're going back to that handshake era a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we need that back, right?
I couldn't agree more. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's really like we have to stop thinking about business as a series of transactions
Mm,
and more as a collection of relationships.
yes.
If you have the right relationships and you keep them strong, the transactions will actually take care of themselves. But the
Mm,
relationship road is a really long one. It's an infinite game. There's a really great book out by Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game. Topic for a different time. But the idea are you building for the quarter? Are you trying to hit your numbers for the quarter, for the year, whatever? Or are you building something that's just kind of keep going on and on?
yeah.
And relationships last if you do them right. Transactions are fleeting. And sadly, the pitch, we can put your product in front of this many people, is intoxicating. It's hard to resist. It really is. And if you have a component of your organization that is focused on the money and growth and market share and metric like that, it's unavoidable. You will do it. You
Yeah.
will pull the trigger and you'll cross over and you'll do that deal to get that result. But the problem is that it comes with strings, as you pointed out. And those strings don't show up until later on
Yeah.
when all of a sudden you're the one who's struggling to figure out I'm selling more, I'm working harder, and we're losing money. How is that possible?
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
very possible.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the people you choose to do business with and the agreements that you make.
Yeah. I
Um,
think chasing those fake numbers, those kind of vanity, I talk about vanity metrics all the time of like, the followers, the turnover, all of those things actually don't really, well, to me, they don't really matter. I'm always looking for what's the engagement, what's the profit, what's the long-term value of this, because selling something to someone once is not really that exciting. Having someone keep coming back again and again and again and building a personal relationship with that person, that's really exciting. Ongoing partnerships, where you can sort of say, oh, you and I can record a podcast together, we'll do this for 12 weeks and I'll never see you again. Or we can go, this is where we want to be in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years.
yeah,
This is our
yeah.
long-term vision. And I think that's so much more exciting than, in 12 weeks time we'll never talk again. Like that to me is just it's a fleeting moment, and it takes the value out of everything. It just does.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think one area to think about, maybe something for you and I to think about, maybe
Mm,
talk about on a future edition, is the idea that when people go to social media. They're going to social media to be inspired. They're going to
Yeah.
social media to see what's in, what's happening, what's exciting, and all that. They're scrolling, scrolling,
Mm.
scrolling. They never find somebody who's saying, look what I bought. Look what I bought. I bought this watercolor set. What they're finding is, look what I did. And
Yeah.
there's an example of a finished product. And then as it goes, that story goes on, it takes the viewer from, oh, that is really cool. It's a thing that
Yeah.
hangs on the wall, or you can wear it, or you can sell it, or whatever. How do you do that? Well, I bought the stuff on Amazon. Here's the link. Boom,
Yeah.
it takes them to there because they've dialed that in. They own the path of purchase. Search site,
That's
social
such a
store. They
great
own the whole
insight.
thing. And
Yeah.
so, as an industry, this is going to take a partnership between the brands and the retailers. Is how do we intercept those people when they're saying, "Look what I did," and they say, "Where did you do it?" Go down to your local art store and
Mm.
fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's one of the things. That's a beginning, I think, is
Yeah.
getting people to see online where they're looking for validation and inspiration and ideas to connect that directly to an independent business or a network of independent businesses or something like that. And to do that, everybody's gonna have to work together, which is gonna be
That
the
is,
hard part
that's
because we
actually
don't do that well.
no, we don't, because I think we've become non-trusting. And like I said, with the
Yeah,
economy the way it is, it's a little bit every man for himself. But that was actually such a great insight, because when you said that, it's not about what I bought, it's about what I did. My
yeah,
instant thought was Martha Stewart. So Martha Stewart is really the OG of this creative economy, and the way she if you watch the film with Sybil Shepherd in it, which is it's a funny film, like funny as
yeah,
in, it's not the best cinematic experience, but it's very interesting,
right.
right? So she really shows and highlights the way. I think there's a moment in the film where she's trying to explain to someone what she wants to do, and this guy's not listening to her, and she says, I will create the products and I will feature them in my magazine and I will feature them on my TV show, and then my TV show would drive people to my products and then the magazine. And I thought to myself, yeah, if I follow Martha Stewart on every platform, I am Martha obsessed. If I went on there and Martha Stewart was standing there saying, here's some eggs I bought and some flour I bought and some milk I bought, I wouldn't be interested. But she doesn't. She starts with the, look at this amazing cake. And you go,
Yeah,
I want to make that cake. Where do I get the stuff?
yeah,
How do I do it? And I think that's the thing, is like, we need to be a little bit more Martha and start with the cake. Let's show people
yeah,
the cake and then the ingredients later. Like you said, you have to get them inspired and want to make the thing. Then we can show them where to get the stuff to make the thing.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
Martha Stewart's a great example because there she is, neatly dressed, perfect hair.
Yeah.
I'm cooking for 80 people that'll be here in 3 hours, and here's what we're going to do. And all of a sudden you're like, I have this party coming. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And where do I go? And
Yeah.
Martha Stewart magazine tells you where to go and things like that. And it's not about creating simple affiliates. It's about really having
Yeah.
an authentic presence, both brand and outlet, place to go buy it
Yeah.
online where the customer can see it and say, it's a continuum.
Mm.
I see what I can do. I want to do. I see the products that I need to do it. And here's the people, not only that I buy it from, more importantly, they're going to teach me how to do it and ensure that I succeed.
Yeah.
Amazon, Temu never do that. They'll
I
never do that. It's just
completely
about the
agree.
buy box.
Yeah, it
Buy
is.
now.
And those affiliate things as well, like, I know people who have got affiliates for these places, and they're just like banging anything out and going, try this, buy
Yeah.
this, because they're
Buy
just on
out.
that. And I think that I very rarely use affiliate codes in my promotional marketing, because and I only accept affiliates into my program who genuinely love my brand, because
Yeah.
otherwise, what's the point? Like, I don't want them to be going, yes, use this, and then next week use my competitor because they're going to give you 5% more or 2% more or whatever it is. Like, that's just like, it needs to be really authentic. And actually, I think this is where we can loop in to indie retail and the retailer. I think that if we can loop the suppliers into this as well, because the suppliers would get such benefit from this. They're the ones whose brands are being devalued by these
Mhm.
massive marketplaces. And actually, if suppliers work with these indie retailers to create in their shop not only here's an end cap or here's a point of sale display, but here's an experience, an immersive experience, a class, whatever that looks like, that then becomes a real hub for the supplier. You know, it's not just putting an end cap in a shop, it's creating, you've got a touch point for our brand in this small town. You know, it becomes that
Exactly.
really immersive piece, and that's powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally. Another maybe almost bigger reason to partner up with the independent retailers is that if you help them survive, if you as a brand or as a supplier help them survive in the long term, they will be there in the long term. You think about what comes with those big transactions, whether it's online or in 1,000 stores or whatever.
Mm.
There's risk, and one or two things are going to happen to you, or both. One is your margins will shrink over time because
Yeah.
they keep asking for more. And the second is if they hiccup, you can go under. And think
Yeah.
about what just happened
Yeah.
last year. I mean, two
Yeah.
really big entities in our industry vanished.
Yeah.
And now they're putting in jeopardy a whole lot of other businesses
Yeah.
because there was so many eggs in those baskets. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. What I think is you want the relationship to be about mutual benefit. In other words,
Yes.
we're in this together. It's win-win. I'm not chasing a transaction. I want to have a relationship with you because I want you to be my long-term partner
Yeah.
as a supplier, as a store, even as an e-commerce site. There are really great e-commerce sites
Yeah.
that are great partners and great brand ambassadors. The first one that comes to my mind is one I'm working with right now is a paper and ink arts up in Nashville. It's a great calligraphy website, online business, and it's family owned. It's a mom and pop retailer online that does a really robust business, so it works.
Mm.
And I think that's what we need to get to. We don't classify this as bad or that as bad. I think
Mhm.
what's not optimal are relationships that aren't win-win and relationships that don't have a future
Yeah.
or have a shaky future at best.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, we've seen a couple, you know, go by the wayside this year. And I've also heard of, you know, a couple of smaller suppliers, small to mid-sized suppliers who have supplied big chains. And when those big chains start doing well with those products, instead of upping their order, they send it off to China and get it replicated
Yeah,
and put it under their own brand. And so you know, chasing these big names is not always the solution to growing your business, and I think sometimes can actually be more harmful. I think having a really solid foundation of small to mid-sized retailers where you can create immersive experiences that really showcase your brand, and where those
yeah,
people, that's what you're getting a person that actually cares about you and your brand. And then,
yeah.
and that is so much better than, you know, sending in a couple of boxes that they put up a generic photo of. That
Hmm.
it's not even the same category. And that doesn't mean as a brand you can't do both, but I know as a brand owner where I put my attention. And for me, my attention is in those small to mid-sized partnerships and not the big marketplaces, because
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
pipe dream. It's the emperor's new clothes. It doesn't exist.
yeah. It doesn't. And I think that moreover too, the independent retailer, the stores in our communities are the people who make markets. They're the market makers.
Yes.
And if we starve them of resources and we starve them of time and we starve them of whatever they need to succeed,
Mm.
we're taking away a viable way to build a market for a product, for a brand. And it can't be built online because, like you said, at some point, if it's successful, they'll take ownership of it and it won't be
Yeah.
under your name. It'll be under their name because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's their mission.
Hmm.
And let them sell toilet paper and paper towels. We're
Yeah.
selling, we're selling creativity, we're
Yeah.
selling inspiration, we're selling personal fulfillment, and in some cases, like in the form of art therapy, we're selling a better way of living your life, of being
Yeah.
healthier, happier, and more well adjusted if
Yeah.
they choose to do that through art therapy or something like that. And
Yeah.
so there's so many reasons why our industry should have appeal for every brand that's involved in it. Look at where you're going to get the good long-term infinite game style transaction, put your money there. And I think,
Yeah.
you and I have a great opportunity to help facilitate that because obviously we know it, we've figured it out, we can see
Yeah.
the whole thing clearly.
Yeah.
But I think it takes a dialogue like this. It takes getting people to think differently about something
Mm,
and then saying, well, you know what? That's right. That's true. Look at where
yeah.
I am today and why am I really struggling? I'm really struggling because they're not even coming to me because they're getting stolen by somebody else on Instagram or on TikTok. And they offer the same thing, a thing you can hang on the wall or block printing Christmas cards, but they
Mm,
end up online to buy the supplies instead of at my demo on Saturday and a
yeah.
deal on supplies and some teaching and
Yeah.
some lessons.
Yeah. I think it's so true. Like, yeah, you can't spend time on fighting things that are not in your control, right? These things are not
Yeah.
going to go away. So what we have to do is reframe where we're at and build new and build our creative industry back to its glory days. And I definitely think that the world, as well as the industry, is hungry for it. People want to make, they want to be creative. I was just on a break with my sister. We didn't go in any big chain stores at all. We went in all these tiny little
Yeah.
backstreet little gift craft creative sparkly shops and bought handmade things and hand produced things, and even like our food and things like that. We were going to like farm shops and delis and buying homemade items, and it was so nice. We were in this tiny little village and everything was like a person. We bought these pastries and the guy who served us was like, my mum made them this morning. Things like that, you don't get the same thing from like a big supermarket, going in and
No.
actually having that hands-on thing. And even like I went into a bookstore and the lady was like, oh, if you like this you should buy this book. And yes, I could have come home and ordered it cheaper on the internet, but in that moment I was swept up in that lovely lady giving me book recommendations and going,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll take them. Like, I want to take that book home, I want to read it right now. And I think that those kind of things is where we need to get back to, that just really tangible, feely, real life dopamine hit that we get in the moment.
Yeah, I agree, and it's not that hard.
Mm.
As a store owner, it's really easy when you see somebody that you waited on or you helped last week come in and you say, "Oh, how'd that painting come out?
Yeah,
I'd love to see it sometime. You have a
yeah,
picture, or try this. I just got some samples and we tested it and back, and we love it.
yeah.
The staff just loves this."
Mm.
And you've been buying a lot of supplies and I know you've got a lot of work. Would you like to hang it up in our gallery? We've got this little
Mm.
space for customer stuff. I mean, all of a sudden, you're creating community, you're building
Yeah.
relationships that turn people not into customers, but into your fans.
Hmm.
They're people who will pay a little bit more because of what they get from you. They'll cut you a little slack when you screw up. They won't run away for a nickel or a dime. Why not just try that? Why
Yeah.
not just try and be a little bit more sticky in that way for people?
Yeah, I completely agree. So as much as, we started this discussion with the thing of, indie retail at risk, we
Yeah.
can choose to frame it that way because there are multiple risks, as I think there've always been in any business. There's always risks, right? And it's our job to weigh up those risks and then try and overcome them. So we could frame this as indie retail at risk, or do we frame it as indie retail with multiple opportunities to build something really new? And that might be a bit of a overly optimistic Pollyanna attitude, and some people might think I've
No.
lost the plot. But I genuinely believe in what we're saying here. I genuinely believe, yes, there are risks. Yes, there are challenges. We're not trying to deny that. What we're saying
Hmm.
is, if we all come together and work together, there are also infinite, really great opportunities as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. Maybe that's something we should think about. I mean, and maybe it's as little as simple as just combining two concepts. Indie retailers at risk, but the future has never been brighter. And,
Yeah.
and here's why we say that. There are statistics out there now. Our industry is growing. It's not
Mhm.
huge. It's not like the electronics, like we're not Nvidia,
Yeah.
but it is growing, and there are people who want to do things, slow down and do things with their hands. do things with their family, do things where they have a tangible result to hang on the wall, put in their home, or give as a gift. And that's us. We
So,
do that. That's what
so
we sell.
speaking of that tangible result, that hands-on, I think that brings us really neatly to our next risk or
Mhm.
opportunity, which is AI. And you are
Yeah.
the expert in AI. At least to me, you're my expert in AI. So, where do you think the biggest risks and opportunities are for indie retailers with that particular threat or opportunity?
That's a big question. I think, the risk is not taking advantage of it. From a business standpoint, the risk is not taking advantage of it. And
Mhm.
I think AI, the one thing about AI is it is a fully democratized technology. It's not
Mhm.
really a technology, it's a revolution.
Yeah.
It is bigger than the dot-com was, than the internet was, than the iPhone was. It's bigger than
Mhm.
all that. What AI represents for a business owner, small business owner in particular, is a way to do things like somebody who has a large IT department and a lot of money. All of a sudden, you think about it, you can do away with your dashboard and all those apps that you have and just turn something on and ask some questions, and you get the data that you want back. If you go
Mhm.
about it the right way, it is possible to get back good, accurate data that you can make decisions with. So instead of having to look at a buying decision as a task that involves a lot of analyzing, downloading stuff into spreadsheets, analyzing it, spending 70% of the time gathering
Mm.
and 30% of the time making a decision and presenting it to someone, or
Mm.
just deciding, you flip that and you spend 30% getting the data where you need it to be and 70% making good, smart decisions. So I think that the risk is that right now, just generative AI, chat GPT, where
Yeah.
you get a subscription for $20 and you have to ask it questions
Mhm.
and figure it out on your own, is a lot of work. And the people who will benefit most from it will not have enough time to really do it.
Mm.
So that's where things like agentic AI come in, which is a new where it's going, which is the ability for anybody, really. I can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Create an agent that does all that stuff for you. One
Yeah.
for inventory management, one for financial planning and financial analysis and stuff like that. Super easy to do. All we need to do is to figure out how do we quickly, easily put that in people's hands. So
Mm.
the upside is it will free up time. And time means time in front of customers, time to clear your head and take a
Mhm.
vacation or something. It doesn't necessarily, it shouldn't mean laying people off to save money. It should mean making their jobs easier so they can do more for the same amount of money so that you can grow. And that's scale. The small businesses have no way to scale. At some
Yeah.
point, you grow, business grows, you get to the point where the only way you're going to grow is with headcount along with sales. And
Yeah.
from a profit standpoint, you go nowhere, maybe backwards.
Yeah.
So AI is a scaling tool. AI is a tool that will help you be a better business person, give you more quality time with your customers and your employees. And so that's it. The other risk, and this is something that it comes up every time I talk to somebody in our industry about it, is the whole copyright side of it.
Yeah.
And whether or not, you make stuff, you're a designer,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, if you find, 10 million people have access to your secrets through AI, even though it's sort of a convoluted way to get there,
Mm-hmm.
but they trained the model on what Sarah Hurley did,
Mm.
you're like crying foul, and it should. So I think AI is sorting that out. Anthropic is one of the companies. It's like Chat GPT, and their product is called Claude. Well, Anthropic just settled a $1.5 billion lawsuit with a group of authors who sued them because they trained their model. Models are trained on information. So
Yeah.
what they do is they go out and they buy every book they can get their hands on, and they feed it into the model and they
Mhm.
train it. It memorizes those books essentially.
Yeah.
And so they bought a whole bunch of books that were pirated.
Mm.
And so, they were fighting and fighting, going back and forth. And Anthropic just said, listen, the right thing to do here is to share. And so we'll give you $1.5 billion.
Mm.
And so this group of authors walked away with compensation for their creativity, which is right. And
Yeah.
I think it's going to go in that direction. I think Anthropic has made it really tough for anybody else to not do that.
I
And
agree.
so that's the other side of it is, we've got our customers and maybe even ourselves
Mm,
who create something and license it. What does that mean to us? And so that's going to get sorted out over a long period of time
mm,
by other people. We still have a voice in it, like we do with tariffs and things
yeah.
like that. But the immediate thing is, as a business owner, as a mom and pop shop, or I have 3 stores and I'm stretched running around between those 3 stores, AI is your lifesaver. What you need to do is figure out how to have it work for you and not have to work at it.
Yeah.
And it is a big topic, and one obviously I'm happy to talk about
I mean,
anytime.
to me, it sounds like I can give it all the boring stuff that I don't like to do and get back to the stuff that I love
Yeah,
doing, which is, sourcing product, designing product, coming up with marketing ideas, all of those things I love doing. I don't want to be analyzing financial data and looking at
no,
spreadsheets. So if I can leave that to AI to scan it for me and spit out a result, I would be very happy with that. So yeah,
yeah,
that sounds great to
exactly.
me.
And AI has the potential to be a thought partner, an analyst, and a creator.
Mm,
And you can have it create things for you without it creating the things, with you, but instead of creating for you. I'm dyslexic. I have a hard time. I love to write, but I have a hard time writing.
yeah.
Everything gets kind of convoluted and my structure gets really bad. And the idea is great and I can put the words
Mm,
together, but it falls apart after a paragraph. What I use AI for is that structure. I'll write it
yeah.
in my messy way, and then we'll work together to organize it. Or I'll get an outline, and then I'll work from that outline, which keeps me within a
On
framework
track.
that keeps my
Yeah.
mind a little bit more focused. And yeah, and I use Grammarly, which is an
Yeah, I've
AI
seen
tool
that.
to correct my spelling and my grammar and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So there's a way to do it without sacrificing what us humans do that's unique, because it will never do that. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Some people say it can, but I don't think it will.
I think
Nobody
the
can
important
nobody
thing
can
is
really think and create.
that's the thing, isn't it? Is it's more curating what it has, and it can
Yeah.
never replicate the creative spark that we bring. It can only
Right.
organize the creativity we've already had, which for me, like as soon as I've designed something or written something, it's already out of my head, it's gone. So I then want to design the next thing or write the next thing. But wrapping up now a little bit because we've sort of covered what I think are the two biggest risks. The
Mm-hmm.
interesting thing to me over our conversation today has been that if you'd have asked me at the beginning of the conversation where the biggest risk would have looked like, I would have said the AI, kind of the robot over the human. But actually, in talking about it, us kind of hashing this out, the bigger risk comes from the human element, the
Mm-hmm.
marketplaces and all of those kind of things, and not from the robot element. And I guess it's almost like the robot element we have some control over, whereas the human
Yeah.
element we don't. And I think
Right.
that that's been a really, for me, that's been my takeaway from this. It's been a very interesting roundup because it's not where I thought
Yeah.
I would have
Yeah.
come out at the beginning of this conversation. I didn't think I would end with that viewpoint. So that's been
Yeah.
really interesting.
And I like my takeaway is that I like the little pivot or the turn of the prism that we made, which is, this is an industry that's at risk. Yeah, it is, but it's also an industry. More importantly, I guess it's an industry with an incredible opportunity and the power to actually do something about it. There is so much within the control of every brand, of every independent retailer, of people like you and I,
Mm.
to put our heads together and find that path forward. And it's a sustainable, infinite path as opposed to a quarter to quarter hit your number and pray you don't get knocked off down the road path.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of where everything's going right now. And I don't see that as being necessarily the only option. I think there's
I
more.
think if we put it into context, we are at a place in the world right now, generally, not just economy, but I think there is kind of a revolution in, technology and communication and so many things. This is probably the biggest shift since the internet went mainstream. And I think that we are at this real pivot point, this real revolution point. And I think real if we put it into context, every industry is at risk right now, every single industry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think the thing that helps us, the thing that sets us apart is we are one of the few that alongside that risk has enormous opportunity. And I don't think
Hmm.
that that's true of every single industry that's at risk. I think there are a lot that will change forever. And I think
Hmm.
ours is actually going back to what was great about it in the first place. And that might be
Exactly.
messy along the way, but I think that the outcome will be amazing. And I hope we're having this conversation in a year's time going, we were right. Or in 2 years' time,
Yeah.
5 years' time. I'd love to think
Yeah.
we're sitting here having this conversation saying, see everyone, we told you it was going to be amazing. We told you it was going to be great, you know? I really hope
Yeah.
that's the case. I think it will be the case. I'm very
I think it will too. I'm
yeah.
optimistic. I think you're right. I think you've encapsulated it perfectly. And I
Good.
am optimistic. We will see that day.
Good. Well, hopefully everyone listening along is optimistic with us and will come and join us
Hmm.
on this journey and we'll see you for the next conversation.
That sounds good. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
See ya.